Odo feels what it's like to be an Arbizon vulture. Quark gives Chief and Bashir drinks on the house. And Jake just wants his dad to pass the damn potatoes already. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
He is the Shaq to my Ernie Johnson. He is the Mark Jackson to my Mike Breen. To know Mr. Love and Jake Sisko. I'm Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Season 3, Episode 2, Deep Space Nine, The Search, Part 2, directed by Jonathan Frakes, huh?
He's all over the place, this Jonathan Frakes guy.
Sure.
We have to look him up.
I think he's going somewhere.
I think he's going to have a career.
How you doing, man?
Good. I didn't realize Jonathan Frakes directed this one.
I hope I didn't misspeak. I guess I should check IMDb to be sure, rather than just like spouting things off like I know anything about anything.
I'm pretty sure he did, because I asked you this a while ago about if Kim Friedman directed all three parts.
Right,
and
right.
You told me that she didn't, that somebody else did this one. So I know it wasn't Kim Friedman.
Confirmed. Jonathan Frakes. What a relief.
Okay, good.
Otherwise, we'd have to start this whole thing over again.
And we were doing so well, man.
I know.
We started off so perfect.
Hey, with basketball analogies, right? Isn't it Mike Breen, the guy that does with Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy?
I think so. I think you're right about that.
I mean, I'd rather you be Mark Jackson than Jeff Van Gundy. No offense.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. You know.
Anyway, and you want
every time I think of Jeff Van Gundy, I think of him grabbing on Latrell's Primo's
I know.
legs.
That's what everybody thinks of. They just holding onto that leg and getting dragged across the court, man. That's what they all think about against the Rockets or something. Anyway,
I forgot who it was against, but yeah.
This has been Basketball Talk with Ryan and Cirroc, and everybody's rolling their eyes. So let's talk about this episode real quick.
All right.
So, pretty awesome, right? It's gotten pretty good now, starting off Season 3.
Yeah, this Season 3 is starting off great. I like what they're doing with the Dominion. I like how they're kind of giving us really good storylines. There's so much more action now happening within these stories. We're getting a lot of backstory. We're getting, development of characters like Garrick becoming really instrumental.
Not to skip ahead, but Garrick just had maybe 3 scenes. How cool was he in those 3 scenes?
I wrote down Andy Robinson is fantastic. I must have written that down. I think I've written that down a few times now, ever since he's popped up on the screen. But this was just another one of those, just like, oh God, I can't get enough of this guy. He takes really good charge of things. When he gets his mind to it and he decides that he's taking control, he's pretty convincing.
So good. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. The other one that I think stood out was, I think we got our first "don't with the Sisko" moment. When he said, "What the hell is going?" He comes guns blazing.
Yeah, that was the toughest Sisko we've seen, I think, so far.
So far.
That was him on like a 9.7 or something. Like, he was almost at full 10.
And he was saying that to an admiral who's like a much superior to him. I mean, he's a commander. He's at 3 pips. Admiral Nechayev has at least 5 pips because she's an admiral. But he's punching up. He's punching up, that guy.
Yeah, she says, "Are you done, Commander?" He says, "I haven't even begun." and he started to go hard. I was like, "Oh shit! Watch out for Sisko when he's pissed off."
Yeah, we weren't expecting that.
No, we weren't. But I enjoyed it because it just, it showed that kind of bravado. He was willing to risk it all in those kinds of moments.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed that. I like seeing Sisko when he's on tilt. I like him showing those leadership skills and making crucial decisions when the moment arises. Like, I like that kind of stuff.
Of course, yeah. And this is when the writers start adjusting to that, because they see how well he delivers that. And I think, this is a theory on my part, not factual. They never said anything like that, but they see how well he delivers that. They see how well it fits him. They're like, okay, let's give this guy a little more beef. Let's give him a little more sauce to this guy.
I mean, well, he's, we see him fighting the Jemadar in the one scene in this where he goes swinging off. Um, he's a tough captain, and they're finally giving him something. It's funny because they actually say Captain Sisko for the first time in this episode, which I thought was pretty cool.
Which ended up not being true, but they still,
right.
You're right. I thought the same thing. That was their first little tease.
That was the first time we've heard Captain Sisko come out of anybody's mouth, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. You were right. And they said maybe even an admiralty someday. They were bribing them.
All you got to do is get down with the program, man. Sell out the Romulans.
All you have to do is take off the uniform or whatever.
Yeah. Speaking of the Romulans and this plot line, it dawned on me while I was watching this episode how similar the themes are, specifically in relation to Odo and the Founders, and watching now Picard and the synthetics. And it felt to me as if the same plight that the changelings and the Founders are having is the same thing that the synthetics are complaining about. Like, no one accepted us, and so we had to find a way. They didn't understand us. They were threatened by our presence. And so we went off and found our own little homeland. And I feel like I'm watching that exact same thing on Picard with the synthetics.
That's right.
Right?
And it's also similar in that there is a line in there that the female changeling says that is one of the few lines that I remember from the first time I watched it as a teenager. There was a line I watched, that I remember my whole life, ever since I first watched it, because it made so much sense and it helped me to just kind of understand, people and people's motives. And I don't want to misquote it. And I'll tell you after the break. The break's 18 minutes away. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is
a long break.
I can't find the exact quote, but the gist of it is you don't have to fear what you control. They control things so that they don't. Oh yeah, here's the quote. Because what you control can't hurt you. And I remember that really stuck with me when I was a teenager, because I'm like, that is absolutely people's motivations when they try to control other people. It's because they fear being hurt. Whether it's a jealous husband that's telling their girl don't go out or whatever it is, or whether it's friends that are too controlling with other friends or whatever it is, or whether it's countries oppressing other countries or groups of people oppressing other groups of people. It's because we fear being hurt by them. And so we try to control them as our own self-preservation out of fear. And that line really stuck with me however many years ago. And so it's great to hear it again.
Yeah, I wrote that line down in my notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was something that was poignant. What you can control can't hurt you. And, it just means so much. And then just in the various ways that you described. But the fact that line stood out with you is pretty impressive, that, it had that kind of impact when you first heard it.
Definitely did. I mean, because it really explains human nature. Like with everything in Star Trek, it explains human nature through the lens of some freaking made up alien. But really what they're doing is telling you how humans are.
Yes, they're talking about the human condition, and that's what we really get a lot of on this show. That's what I really enjoy about watching this show. There was another moment in this episode, for example, when Odo's family, his kind, were explaining to him the word changeling.
I was waiting for this to come up. This was one of the best moments.
Yeah, and I thought it was great because Odo, obviously he's like changeling. He hadn't heard, he was like a little bit taken back to hear it coming from her. And she explained to him that, that word was like a derogatory word that we've adapted.
Right.
And it just reminded me of like the N word.
That's
and
exactly
how people use that word.
I'm sure that was not an accident. I'm sure that's what they meant. Yeah.
It had to be, because the parallel is just unbelievable. but yeah, how the N word has been adapted and people use it, and it's no longer has the same meaning, and the meaning is changed by the people who it was used to denigrate. And I just think that those are the kinds of little implants that they do in these shows that I think make it special,
Right.
because it takes you to a place where you can draw from in your own, like, history, your own experiences growing up in life. So that's one of the great things about the writing on this show. They take these themes, they take these ideas, they take these concepts, they unfold them in front of us in these different ways, like you said, using alien as the context, or space, or the future. And we get to kind of dissect these concepts in different ways and swallow them, and like, okay, there is a deeper meaning there, which I enjoy.
Yeah, I don't think I really made that connection when I first watched it. Or I don't remember if I did. I may have, but I certainly hung on every word this time. I was like, "Oh my God, that's perfect." I get, any adult that's watching that, I think, completely understands, what they're alluding to there. And it was kind of for them, it was like a moment of empowerment of saying, "Hey, we're taking this word from you," and it's like a rallying cry almost. They're like rallying around it, and now they've taken everything over, and it's a very empowering thought. Now obviously they've gone in kind of a sour direction from the perspective of the Federation, but in their perspective they rose above and they conquered, and it's pretty awesome.
They did, and they preserved their culture. They still exist, but like I said, watching their kind of story unfold reminded me so much of the synthetics and Picard. Just the fact they were kind of looking for the same peace of mind and ability to exist without um, being questioned or feeling threatened, right? But now we're watching the transition of these people. Um, Doing what was done to them back to the people that so it's like now as the Dominion gets stronger and these people are now starting to gain power in the systems, that they're looking to oppress other people,
Right.
and it was oppression that they were escaping from, and it was acceptance that they were looking for, and now it's the opposite. So I think that once again, that's the same kind of theme that we're seeing playing out with the synthetics.
Yeah, that's also a human nature thing. Throughout history, there'll be, the oppressed becomes the oppressor. Whether it was back in the Roman days or the Greek days or Byzantine empires or whatever it is, like things kind of have a way of flip flopping. And to take your analogy one step further, that I hadn't considered until you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Another similarity between the synthetics and the changelings is that at the very end of Picard series, remember, he becomes, spoiler everybody, spoiler, plug your ears for a few seconds.
Spoiler alert.
He becomes a synthetic at the very end, right?
Mm-hmm.
He dies and he goes into that golem body, or golem, whatever it is. My precious. Right, that's the guy. Stupid fat hobbits. Right, that's what he says.
Very good. This guy is a world class voice impersonator.
I can only do like 4. I just look for any way that I can sneak him in. I'm like, okay, Gollum, Worf, Picard. Don't ask me to do anything.
No, you're world class, and you're very humble about it. But
thanks.
I love listening to your voice impressions. I think you're great at it.
Thanks. My parents hate it. So, so anyway, so he becomes a synthetic after he goes into that Gollum body, and Odo, to follow your analogy, also comes and joins them and realizes he is one of them when they link too. So,
right. Which you talking about the liquid link that they did?
Right. So in both of these shows, the things that we thought were like the bad guys and the oppressor, the person that's going out and kind of seeking them kind of joins with them or becomes one of them,
Yeah, and is also kind of an outsider as well. So it almost is like I'm seeing them borrow a lot of his themes from DS9 and inserting them in Picard.
They'd be wise to do so.
They'd be wise to do so because they'd be using some of the best writing. I don't know about you, but one of the things that I found was interesting was when they told Odo that he was 1 out of 100 that were
Yes,
sent
I
out.
love that. Yeah.
And it just made me think of, like, I just couldn't help but think of the other 99 and where they ended up, where they ended up.
Right. So just as a refresher for the people listening in, because I do think you're right. That's such a great point. A really interesting story. Really interesting is they didn't want to go out and explore. It's too dangerous. They don't want to deal with it. So they made 100 little Odo babies, little baby Odos,
Right.
little Play-Doh balls, and they shot them out throughout the galaxy and gave them each kind of like a homing beacon, for them to naturally want to come back and to be drawn back to it. And if you'll remember, Odo when he would see that Omicron Nebula or whatever, he'd be like, "What's that?" So he was drawn to it.
Yeah.
And because of the wormhole, he's way early. He came 300 years earlier than they expected him. And even then they were saying like he was gone too long or something like that. So there's that weird dichotomy of he was gone too long, but he was here 300 years earlier than we expected.
Yeah. And that 300 years, it just made me, when that whole 300 years earlier, there was a exchange there where Odo says, "How long have I been gone?" And it just made me think, well, normally we just keep track of how long we were alive, and that's like how long we've been gone.
Yeah, dude. Don't you have a watch?
Yeah, like how long were you in the Cardassian, occupation, and where were you before that? And like how long was it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would give you an idea. So it's like we don't know Odo's age.
Right.
And we also know that Odo can live a very long lifespan, right?
At least 300 and something years. We know
Right.
that for sure.
Exactly. So I thought that was interesting too, because we got a little bit about his lifespan. We got a little bit about how he's 1 out of 100, and there's other Odos out there. I wonder if they look exactly like him. If there's variations on how they look because they've all grown up in different environments. Those were the kind of curiosities that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it was also good that Odo was dealing with this kind of identity crisis, but more so not understanding his powers, right? Because I think he was trying to turn into a rock, and he said, I still don't know what it's like to be a rock.
Right. And just one little thing I didn't like about that he did say how he tried to be a rock, but he didn't try to be Iran. And I was like, come on, dude, be fair about anyway, go on, sorry.
Yeah. We'll let that go.
I've been sitting on that one all week. I've been like, I'm like, when's he going to say it? Just say it.
Oh, man. I took the bait. So, yeah, I just don't know that, he didn't really, he had that breakthrough moment with the Arbizon Vulture, right? Where he's like, yeah, oh, man, I finally understand what it's like. But to me, I don't know. I just figured like when he was a mouse or when he was all these things that he understood that he was a mouse.
Right. Thanks for bringing me back to the mouse day.
Remember that mouse
really
episode?
Good. He was a really good actor. That thing knew its mark. It knew how to stand.
Yeah, it was looking to the left, look camera right.
The good old days.
That mouse never once looked directly into the camera. He was awesome.
And no problems with him on set. He was cool.
Yeah, I think he was a little bit overeating at the craft service, but other than that, he was on it.
There was no cheese to be found when that jerk was on set.
No cheese. So, but I mean, there were a lot of little things like that. I think this was almost an Odo episode in some ways to me. He was the standout star. We also had the Vorta kind of heavily featured in this.
Right, what was his name? Boroth.
Yeah, Borat's brother, Boroth. And
nice.
That's all I got.
Thank goodness.
So
shout out to Borat. Good knowledge.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Bruno, the kind of the second movie
I seen
by
it.
Sacha Baron Cohen?
I have.
That was
Actually, I like his movies at that time. He was coming out with some good movies. He made also The Dictator.
I
thought
didn't
was
see
funny.
The Dictator. That was the one I didn't see. I saw those
Oh,
first
yeah.
two, Bruno and Borat. Because Bruno was maybe the only movie that's ever made me physically react in a theater. Like actually, like physically, I like curled into a ball and like physically reacted. Anyway.
No, I didn't see either one of those in the theater. I saw them, on DVD and stuff like that.
Okay.
But they were definitely memorable.
So Borath, the Vorta. Oh, by the way, he didn't shoot lasers out of his chest. That was something I forgot to mention before, was that first Vorta named Eris. She was like, oh, by the way, I got psychokinetic powers. Just call me Cyclops or Magneto or whatever, Professor X. And she's like,
Yeah.
Or Ken and Ryu of Street Fighter. She's like, Hadouken!
Hadouken.
But no other Vorta ever after that does that. So that was just some kind of.
So we never see Wei Yun do that as well, right? That's a one-off.
Yeah, it was a thing that supposedly was a mistake, that they didn't mean to have Eris do that, because then after that it never appears ever again. But anyway.
Yeah, I remember that they had, and they mentioned Eris, so she actually got a non-appearance mention in this one.
Very true.
I think it was Borath that said something about her, like he expected Eris, something to that degree.
So we've got about a minute left before our break here. What did you think of Borath? Let's just finish off on him, because we've always said it's kind of tough to be the first alien, that the actor that plays the first alien. But it's equally difficult, I would say, or maybe even more difficult, to be the second one. Because then you can't really create the alien anymore. You have to just kind of follow what that person started in just one episode. What did you think about that character? What do you think about the Vorta? Anything interesting, or just kind of fine?
Well, what I can say, while I was watching this Borath Vorta, it gave me an entirely new appreciation for how fantastic Jeffrey Combs' version of a Vorta is. And that's, that just goes to say, you put two guys, you put the same makeup on them, you give them the same blueprint on what the character's about or how the race of characters, aliens,
Right.
behaves. And people take that information and interpret it however they do. And I wasn't super blown away by this Vorta's performance. I thought he was good at some points, and then other points I felt like he appeared a little weak to me. And weakness is nothing that I feel from Wei Yun's character.
Jeffrey Combs just chews up the scenery like nobody's business, right?
Like nobody's business, and he emanates this strength and this confidence, and he's just totally in control of everything. And
Magical.
in this particular Vorta, this Vorta is more like I don't know. It's just he didn't do it for me the same way, and so it just makes you really respect the guys that do it so well.
Right. We got to hit our break, but it really tells us why Jeffrey Combs was invited back for a second episode and a third and a fifth and a 10th and a 20th or whatever it was, because probably once they caught that lightning in a bottle, they're like, oh, we got to find a way to use him again.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to come right back. We're just going to always sing Jeffrey Combs' praise probably forever. We'll be right back with a super quick break on The Seventh Rule. Hey everybody, welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton. I'm Ryan T. Husk. Cirroc was just talking about a new invention he's going to do, but we won't say it publicly because that'll ruin this great idea. By the time this airs, it'll probably already be taking the world by storm, spreading everywhere like something else. So the quick trivioids that didn't make the cut. One was, really good one by Garrick. Enemies make dangerous friends. That was a great one. That was almost a rule of obfuscation for Carrick there.
Yeah.
Kira reminds Odo, this isn't a police investigation. We have
Yeah.
quality
So
time
tell
with
me.
Bashir. Yeah. He was a little aggressive there.
A little over the top. Like, calm down, Odo. These are your friends.
Yeah. Quality time with Sisko and Bashir, which I thought was going to last longer than one scene. Boroth claims he's one of the founders. Boroth wants an alliance. These are boring. Odo comes home early, in quotation marks.
Mm-hmm.
Kira wants to know why shapeshifters need a door. Jake and potatoes. That was a solid one because you're like, can you pass the potato? He just wants some potatoes. And he was like, oh, but I want to tell you all these other stories. And you're like, I just want potatoes.
Yeah, but Dad, those potatoes are getting cold, just for the record.
just so you know. Dax is being transferred to the Lexington. That was also interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Odo feels what it's like to be an Arbizon vulture, as we covered. It's Bajor and the Romulans versus the Dominion and its allies. For a moment there, it looked like it was going to be a crazy tussle. Yeah. And lastly, this was a good one. The female changeling has the nerve to say, we will miss you, Odo, but you will miss us more. Like that just made me think of that Lou Rawls song, You're Gonna Miss My Lovin', you know that one? It's like, you'll never find, right? And it's just like, she's just like, we'll miss you, but you'll miss me more. You're going to miss our loving.
Yeah, I mean, who else are you going to liquefy with, huh? even though Nana looked like she was ready at the end of that episode. They're getting that little love connection kind of.
You're saying Kira was starting to liquefy?
Not necessarily like that. That's not exactly what I was saying, but they are definitely getting cozier and cozier towards the end of that episode. You could see they kind of exchanged a look. I think she was holding his hand as they were about to beam away.
Yeah, because she thought that he was going to stay behind for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she thought he was going to stay behind, and it looked like he was going to stay behind. But you could see that was the beginning of a little budding something. They made hints at it. I felt, there was just moments where she would look at him lovingly.
But it was also the beginning of the female changeling, the female shapeshifter, having quite a lot of power over Odo, because the way he reacted and felt after they connected, after they linked for that second, even though I think it was just their hands, he reacted like, wow, like she just blew his mind,
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because it reminded me the face he had. He had like this Odo orgasm face, like oh.
that was his Odo face.
Yeah. Odo. Yeah, he was. He definitely had that orgasmic face on him, which was kind of funny to look at. And,
what did it look like?
I thought I gave you a sample of it just a second ago. That's about all I can give. Before that turns into a meme, But no, I just thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty amazing that little melting thing that they did, and I actually wondered if that was a form of like a sexual thing or not.
Right. I mean,
did you feel that way when you were watching it? Like, is that like an intimate thing that they're doing?
Definitely. And I don't, obviously I have the benefit, and we have the benefit of having seen 7 seasons worth. So basically the way I see it is it's somewhere between 1% and 99% sexual, but we can't really but it's not 0 and it's not 100. Okay. You know what I mean? It's not completely sexual and it's not completely asexual. There's something there, but we don't really know exactly how sexual, at least as a fan, we don't really know how sexual it is necessarily, because these are aliens and they're not even solid aliens. So they experience things differently. Maybe to them, sexual is just intimacy. Maybe that's all just one thing. They don't really experience sexuality like we do because they don't have gonads. They don't reproduce. They don't have any of that kind of stuff. So the way we perceive it is somewhat sexual, somewhat intimate, somewhat spiritual, very spiritual, and also in a familial, like in a family way. So it's kind of like all those things rolled up into one, and obviously all of those things sound completely different to us. So that's why it's just like the writers, another brilliant thing from the writers, and kudos to them that they created something that is kind of like mind expanding. Like you have to kind of take yourself out of your own feelings in order to try to understand it, if that makes sense.
It does. But the other thing that I was going to add to that is the reason why I felt weird about it being a sexual kind of encounter was because I couldn't identify whether the character, I forgot her name, the changeling that is the main.
Just the female changeling. That's
the
just
female
all she's ever been
changeling.
called, yeah.
Okay. I couldn't identify whether she was. It kind of almost felt like she was a parental type figure to Odo, specifically for the fact that she was almost there for his creation and sending out into the cosmos. So it feels as if she was a senior to him, as far as like, yeah, I was around before that, before you don't know anything about this.
Totally.
This was before you were born. You know, we used to do this. We traveled the galaxy. We were looking for people and trying to be a benevolent force in the universe, but people hated us, right? So she had all this backstory. It felt like she was the senior to him.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And not just a parent, but also a leader, a boss, a superior, a creator, or whatever it is. Like all of those things kind of wrapped into one.
Exactly. And so that's why I felt that moment was a little bit, there was an awkwardness between the two of them. It was like, is that his mom? Is that his creator? Is that his peer? Like what is the nature of their relationship? I know that they're from the same species, and I know that they both can melt into a bucket when they want, but what is the nature of that?
It does make me think the way you're talking about it too is I wonder if like that was like a total turn off for Kira. Like she goes back, she's talking to Dax, and Dax is like, "Hey, so how'd it go?" And she's just like, I don't know, Odo, I don't know. And she's like, "Oh, what do you think? You got a crush on him?" And she's like, "I don't know. He did this as honestly as kind of a turn off. It's pretty gross. I don't know what the hell they're doing." Now she doesn't. At this point, she does not have any kind of crush on him that we know about. But if she did, I wonder if she would just be like, "Ugh, what? Nothing.
Was that your mom?"
Yeah, never mind. Did you just like melt into your mom or something?
Yeah,
I don't know what I was thinking. That's what she's saying.
Yeah, what were you guys doing in there when you were melted together? What was the conversation like in that melted state? I think it would be a big turnoff. Just that's my guess, because I was confused by watching it, and like you said, she was a powerful person of authority because she had the power to release the crew at the end when Odo essentially asked her to.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was still a little taken, and we don't know how that species or alien species reproduces. Is it asexual? Is it sexual? How do they make little Odo and send it out? So I think those are the kinds, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the kinds of questions we had. One of the things that I enjoyed too was just as a matter of, a side note. One was I paid attention to a lot of the sound effects that were in this episode.
So did I. I want to see if you got the same one I did. Let's hear it.
Well, the one that I was paying attention to was when Kira was inside of that cavern type cave that they had them in. Mm-hmm. They used these outdoor nature cricket sounds and stuff to make it look like it was really, you were on the planet's surface in a camp-like environment. So
when they were underground.
Where that place where she said, "I feel like I'm talking to a tree." Was that underground?
No. That's exactly what I noticed as well. what I put it as like a whistle / hum / wind. It was like a weird sound on the planet's surface that I didn't pick up the first time. And I noticed that, and I was like, oh, they kind of created like this.
Yeah, and
Like
and
this,
there were
it was kind of like a hum or a
sound.
wind
Yeah.
or something like that, Yeah.
Yes, and there was like a chirping. I don't know if it was crickets or birds or something, but they added a little bit of that too. And I was saying, oh, okay, look at these sound effects guys going, taking it to the next level on this planet surface, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Right. It gave it like a mystical ambiance kind of thing.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say is that in that same set, on that same outdoor set, there were these light orbs that were like these balls of light that were kind of placed around. I don't know if they were lamps or lanterns, but they were just around the set, and I really enjoyed the design of that light.
Maybe those were little baby Yodos.
No, no, they were lights. They were actual light sources. I mean, and there was a scene with, where Kira and Oda are talking about the door, where she's sitting there in front of this light, and it was just a modern kind of light fixture. I don't know if they bought it or they made it, but as far as set design was concerned, I just said, "Oh, okay, that's pretty interesting, and that's futuristic and unusual, and those kinds of things that kind of pop out on my visual spectrum." Say, "Okay, what is that? That's nice." I drew a little picture of it, but it was
nice. You drew a picture of a ball?
Of a ball that made light. It was this kind of a looking thing.
Nice.
And it was like a ball with holes in it that shot up lights.
That's really cool. I missed that. I didn't notice that. That's a good eye.
Yeah, it was really cool. Beautiful lights in the holding cell is what I put. And my favorite line, one of my favorite lines from Garrick was when he said, "Oh, you have a loose thread right here." It went right before he put the guy to sleep, and I just like that. And then he said, after years of working with women's clothing or something, I'm excited to be doing something adventurous.
My favorite Garrick line, and I'm glad you brought Garrick back into the fold here, is oh wow, my computer autocorrects Garrick into garage, but he says where'd it go? But he says like when they're all escaping, right, and then they run into two Jem'Hadar, and Garrick grabs a phaser and turns on the D6 officers, and he's like, "Oh, this is all part of the plan." They go, "What plan?" He's like, "Oh, you didn't hear? Well, see, I pretend to be their friend, and then I just turn around and shoot you." And the way he's got that calm and friendly nature, he's just like, "Oh, well, let me talk to you, and we'll figure it out." And then they just totally fall for it. And then they say, I don't remember if it was Sisko or if it was Bashir, but they say, "Nice work." And he says, "Oh, just something I read in a book." And they're like, "I'm sure."
Yeah.
sure it was.
But he was very smooth about that. Like he went from, I mean, it was just perfect. It was just great. "Drop your weapons, Commander." Yes. "I'm glad you're here." So he used them and nobody knew what was going on except for Garrett. And that's just the magic of how he controls scenes when he's in them. And that's another reason why I just love him so much. He takes over the scene, but we didn't mention this, and we talked about the N-word and how they used that to kind of parallel with the changeling word, right?
Right.
But the other thing that they threw in here was the Quark "I have a dream" speech.
That I like that one a little bit less, I thought. I want to see what your take on it, but I was like, "Oh, they're not. Did they?"
Yeah, that's exactly how I was feeling. I was watching it unfold, and any speech that starts off with "I have a dream," you're like, okay,
immediately going to make that connection,
right? Immediately. So already, I'm like, okay, is he gonna recite the "I have a dream" speech right now? And he did, and he altered it with his own take on it. And then, of course, his own spin. And then, of course, it ended with like, "Yeah, I have a dream that, everybody spends money at Quarks or something." not my best favorite use of these kinds
agree.
of inserting, different themes and topics into the show. I thought it was a little bit, one, over the top, two, cheesy.
I would even go and look. Hey, we give kudos where kudos is
due.
deserved.
Yeah.
Constantly, and they usually handle things more eloquently than any other show ever. Okay, so it's okay for us to say sometimes that that one, it was cute, it was funny, it got a laugh, yes, but could they have gotten that laugh without starting I Have a Dream? Because once they start with I Have a Dream, we start thinking about, for my money, the greatest hero in American history, and it felt slightly disrespectful. And disrespectful is a word I don't really want to use, because I hold Deep Space Nine and the writers in a very high regard. And they usually do things so eloquently and so well that it's really humbling how well they do it. And this was the one time where I was like, so I'm kind of curious how you felt about that.
I didn't get it either. And the funny thing is, I enjoyed other instances where Quark was making the racial argument about how Ferengis get hated on. And I enjoyed that, because in the past we've seen that now where, he actually challenged Sisko and said, you just hate me because I'm Ferengi, and, and you're racist, just like.
Absolutely. And those worked.
And those worked to me. And I bought all of those arguments, and I started to actually, endear myself to his cause, because he's actually right. He's being discriminated against, and unfairly. And so I was starting to really lean in his way. But now when you take something and you trivialize something that is so important to American history, but specifically Black American history, but American history.
That's right.
And you trivialize it so much, it takes away from me now siding with him on the seriousness of his racism claims, right? So I just thought it wasn't necessary. I thought it was just kind of poorly inserted.
Yeah,
I know what they were trying to get with it, but
exactly.
they could have done it another way. He could have said, he should have they should have taken the I Have a Dream part away and just, I've got this goal in my mind that I'd love to see. I'd love to see the station like this.
And you know what?
That would have been all right.
It would have been been even funnier, because we would have made some connection to Martin Luther King, even if he just says, I have this goal. I wish that something like this, some of us would make that connection, be like, he's no Martin Luther King or something like that,
Exactly.
kind of make that joke. But when he's like doing a direct quote, then we're just kind of like, you can't quote him and use it like that.
And then if you're going to do it like he did it, then I would expect Bashir or O'Brien to call him out on plagiarizing the I Have a Dream speech, at least in that moment. Say, come on, man, you can't use those words for that.
Yeah, they could have even made a joke that says, from now on, Quark, I'm sure Ferengi know nothing about this, but if you ever start a sentence with I have a dream,
exactly,
don't end it with anything to do with profit, okay?
Exactly.
You better damn well make it something that's honorable.
And I would have bought that.
And then he walks away going, humans, or whatever it is, but at least we're like, okay, thank you.
Yes. Bashir should have said, I have to stop you right there, Quark.
You're right. Stop before you start. before
this goes badly for you. Okay? And that would have worked for me if they had just used it like that. What did you think about this Admiral Nichia? Have we seen her before?
Yeah, Nechayev. We just saw her once so far in Deep Space Nine, if I remember correctly. And I remember a couple people said that I pronounce her name Nechayev sometimes incorrectly, but I said, no, I just call her Admiral Nechayev because that's what Picard calls her. Most people call her Nechayev. She's in Next Generation very often. She is the foil to Picard. She's the one that's always like, Picard's like, he wants to do something. And she's like, no, you're going to go to the neutral zone. He's like, but Admiral, I've got to, and whatever. And she's like, no, she's that one.
Yeah.
And so now she's here kind of being less of that one with Sisko, but certainly being, the foil, so she's a tough admiral. What's her name? Natalia Nagolich or something like that. She's amazing, but she's in a ton of episodes in Next Generation.
Yeah, she's really good at shooting people down. Because she shoots Sisko down so hard. He's like, well, yeah, so we're going to be doing this, and this, right? You're willing to risk the war with the Romulans, and it's just she's like shooting them down left and right. I thought it was pretty amazing. And speaking of the Romulans, another parallel for the spoilers alert out there to Picard. So like I said earlier, the synthetics remind me of now these changelings, at least the plight that they have, why they've isolated themselves to a faraway planet. Mm-hmm. That makes, that's similar to me. And the other similarity that I came across was the Romulan, the pending war with the Romulans, right? So even though it didn't happen and this was all just an experiment, within the cave, but at stake was a potential war with the Romulans. Right. And now I'm watching Picard, and the potential war with the Romulans and the synthetics is at play. So another parallel. I was like, wow, this is a recurring
Are they just like
theme.
forever about to be at war with the Romulans? Like for 20 years, they're just already always almost at war.
Yeah, and so like the Romulans are like, like the Cold War with Russia. It's like, it's always on the precipice. It almost might happen, but it doesn't. So.
I've also got a note here for another great Garak line, and this one, I don't really know if it's a well-written line or if it's just delivered in Garak's way, because sometimes it's just a perfect line, and sometimes it's just the way Garak said it that's funny.
Right.
When he's talking with Sisko, and it was one of these classic scenes between two people that are about to start a mutiny, but that they don't want to say it out loud. So they just kind of like hint, like, oh, I hear that this is happening. Oh, I hear this is happening.
Right.
And then Garak goes, the only reason I can find is that our leaders have gone insane. I don't know why. I was like, that's so great, man.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean though, because it's like when you're talking about something, but you're not talking about something, and just the dynamic between Sisko and Garak in that moment was really clever and fun, because we as the audience knew they're both saying, "Yeah, why don't we do something about this?" Right? But they're not saying it openly. They're just kind of suggesting at it. So yeah, I did enjoy that as a matter of fact.
They're like, I'm not talking about mutiny, but if you're talking about it, I'll listen. But I wasn't bringing it up.
No, mutiny. What are you talking? The other thing that I liked though is I saw that Odo started to find himself in a position where he had to make a choice between who he is as a person and who he's become as a person. And you can see him kind of, he enjoys to get to know who he is and where he comes from and his abilities and, how to, get to know inanimate objects or animate objects and to really merge with them and understand them. But then you also see that he realized that he's not like them, that his life experiences have changed him in such a way that he doesn't see the logic in the same things that they see. And one of the lines that he gave, which I thought was just a great example of the cycles of life and kind of this reoccurring themes that we see in Star Trek. And he mentioned the Federation in their defense for the Federation to the founders. He was saying to her, they travel the galaxy to explore just as you once did. And he's basically saying, the Federation is doing exactly what you guys were doing at one point, right? And we see this cycle play out, whether it's from one section of the quadrant to another. This is kind of mankind's or humankind or life's kind's desire to explore.
It's human nature.
It's human. Well, beyond human, it's
at this point, what they're saying is, look, it's life nature.
It's universal nature. It's nature, right?
Yeah.
Is to go out there and explore and try to, understand your surroundings and meet people around you. And so I thought that was interesting that the founders had at one point done exactly what the Federation is trying to do, and so it's just this kind of cycle of life playing out. And the other thing that jumped out to me, you mentioned earlier, which I'm glad that you did. You mentioned earlier about the line about controlling, control so that people don't.
Yeah, I love that.
Don't hurt you. And the other thing that I wanted to add to that was the line that the founder gave, which was, "It's not just justice you desire, but order." And she mentioned the order, right?
Which is what Odo is always going on about, is how he wants order.
Right. And I just thought that was a nice little throw in there because, order. We talk about order and chaos, which is its, antithesis. But we talk about these things, and I like that they touched on it.
We do have 1 minute left, maybe 30 seconds, but I think it would be awesome if we had Cirroc's line of the episode, line of the day. What's the best line of the episode? Because we're always talking about like all these great lines, and you seem to be, really good at picking out these best lines of the episode. So I kind of want to hear like, which is the number one best line?
Yeah, I can't really say for this one. I have a couple. I'll say that. The one is where Sisko breaks into the room and says, "I want to know what the hell is going on." That one.
Emphasis on hell, by the way.
Yeah. I want to know what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
I love that line. And I also like Odo's line, and it was towards the end, but he says, "Whatever you do to them, you'll have to do to me." And to me, that was one of those, just like, that's the guy you want. That's the guy you want on your team.
That's right. Cool. Well, we got to run. Very special thanks to Yvette Blackmon, Rex A. Wood, Dennis Koch, Homer Frizzell, Eve England, and Marie Segal, Rob Hoffman, and Carmen Shamwell. Stay tuned for the free-for-all, where some of those people will be on the free-for-all, I'll bet. And special thanks, of course, always Cirroc Lofton for making us look awesome. Special thanks to our favorite person in the world, Mr. Aron Eisenberg and Russ Hasledge. Thank you to him. We'll see you on the other side on the free-for-all in just a minute. Always remember the 7th rule. Hey, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the free-for-all today. We're joined by Cirroc Lofton, as usual, Kat R. King, Eve England, Rex A. Wood, Carmen, wait, don't tell me, Carmen Shamwell.
I'm giving out my government name, but okay.
Sorry. Commander Homer Frizzell and Melissa Longo. Sorry, Cirroc's got a question. Let's hear it.
I do have a question. It was just a simple one. Where is the one place that you can't wait to go to when it reopens?
Great question. Let's start with Kat R. King.
Oh, the mountains. Big Bear.
What do you do when you get out to Big Bear?
Well, because we were planning on the wedding in October, we were scouting the locations for the actual ceremony up there. But her family's all up there. My dad's up there. We like to go hiking and just explore,
Yeah. Her family lives out in Big Bear?
Yeah.
My dad's not too far from there, but he's up in Redlands.
Okay. So just down the hill, actually.
Just down the hill, exactly.
My dad lives in Running Springs, and her grandfather lives up there too, and so they all live in the same area. So we spend a lot of time up there, just in the. It's so nice to get the fresh air. It's only 20 minutes up, from us, so it's nice.
Yeah.
Sounds glorious. What about you, Rex A. Wood?
Gosh, I got a couple restaurants I really want to go to. They're kind of local ones in Louisville. We've also, so those would be a couple, and then the Derby, of course, they moved the Derby to like September. So those are some things I'm looking forward to, but probably mostly getting back into some of the restaurants. There's a wonderful Italian, there's a wonderful Mexican restaurant. And yeah, you've been able to order it in, but it's not the same. You just want to go there. You know, it's all about the atmosphere. Okay? All about that.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
Rex is a foodie.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes, I am.
Miss Eve England, all the way out in Wales, UK.
Yeah, I think it's the same with everyone else. There's quite a lot of things I'm really looking forward to doing, but I think what I've really missed more is just getting together with friends and family, and it's just been so strange being relatively close to people geographically, but not being able to hang out. And I never ever thought I'd say this, but actually just being back in the office will be quite nice, and just being able to hang out with your work friends rather than just on Zoom all the time. So yeah, just getting back to a bit of normality and just seeing more people. As much as I love my husband, it's just not quite the same just seeing one person all of the time. So some variety would be nice. And yeah, seeing my friends and my parents and my sister and everyone, that would be really good. Yeah.
Have you told your husband how you feel?
Yeah, he probably feels the same way as well. I think he's a teacher, so he gets to go into school every now and again. So he gets to see his work friends. So I think he doesn't quite understand that I feel totally in a bit of a bubble and haven't really seen any of my friends for 6 weeks or so. So it's quite weird.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. What about you, Carmen? By the way, welcome, Carmen. This is Carmen's very first free for all. Where are you calling in from?
I'm actually in just outside of DC in Maryland, Washington, DC.
Got it. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. 3 things. Miss going to the movies. Would love to go back to the movies. There were so many things coming out this year. Number 2, I'm a big Comic-Con person, or just AnimeCon person. And I was actually supposed to be packing up tomorrow morning and going to a convention here in the DC area, AwesomeCon, and I'm not going to that. I go to like somewhere crazy, like 10 to 12 conventions a year. But those are 2 like kind of like selfish things. My grandmother lives across town in DC proper, and my aunt, my mom's sister, is taking care of her. She's got dementia, and she's the primary caregiver, but we were going over to relieve her whenever she needed to just have a break from my grandmother's sort of neuroses. So I think that if I were to, put them first, family first, it would be go over to my grandmother's house and sit with my grandmother so my aunt can literally leave the house, because my grandmother, it's a lot. She's 87 and dementia is just, my aunt needs a break, but we can't go over. Like physically, we can't go over. So I think that's probably the number 1 thing I would do. Go to my aunt's, go to the movies, go to a Comic-Con.
Combine them all.
Is your grandmother's dementia at the point where she remembers you still, or she doesn't?
Oh, she remembers us all. Think about Drew Barrymore in 50 First Dates. It's like she remembers things up until like a point where it's like a hard wall, and then everything after that is just forgotten. She's at a point where conversations a day ago, a week ago, a month ago don't mean anything. So yeah, it's very difficult. I try to call if she's in the mood to receive calls, but yeah, it's difficult. Some of it borders on funny and ridiculous, but it's like, but yes, I think it's just something that we're trying to get through as a family. But yeah, that's where I'd go first.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Melissa, who's celebrating Taco Thursday with an array of tacos behind her, ruined so by sour cream.
Yeah.
What's your answer?
I don't know where the first place I'd go. Anywhere where there's good hugs.
Good hugs.
Yeah, I miss hugs.
Yeah.
Seeing friends and hugs. And I might check out like a flea market or something.
So the elbow pound thing is not working for you? It doesn't.
The Bash Brothers.
It works for what it is supposed to be.
Kicking feet together, elbow pounds.
Yeah, I'm a hugger. I like hugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Homer? What are you missing the most? What are you going to jump to as soon as this is all done?
Well, I think Eve mentioned work, and my right side up 7th rule mug is at work, and I haven't seen it since February. But that's number 3 on the list.
Remind us why you specify your right side up.
So, yeah, I think it's Teespring sent me a mug where the image was reversed. So if it's dried, you can see it's like, that's great. But if you put something in it, you have to have the other side up, and it's upside down. But they were really cool about replacing it, like no questions asked. I sent them a picture, so I think they got it.
So you have two mugs. You have 2 mugs now. You have
yeah. Well, actually, I have more than that, but one at work, one here, and then there's one that's in Vermont, and then there's I think another one that might be in the Catskills.
That error mug is going to be worth a lot.
I think so. That's why I'm holding on to it. And I use it occasionally on this podcast, and no one notices. So today, I'm using my Picard Earl Grey mug.
Okay.
So there are a couple other places. So we have this place in the Catskills, and yes, we could go there. But 1, we would be renting a car, so that's crazy expensive. And then 2, we don't want to endanger anyone, so we're just hunkering down and staying here. The one place that is at the top of my list to go is to see my parents in northeastern Vermont. They've been staying, inside the house. My sister comes over and leaves off groceries. They don't even really
interact.
They see each other, but it's not like there's any interaction whatsoever. So I'd love to be able to get up there, say in June or July, something like that. I think it's going to be a while before I get to go anywhere because I'm in New York.
Yeah.
You're in the heart of it all, right? What part of New York again?
I'm in Manhattan at the top. Yeah.
The epicenter.
Mm-hmm.
The epicenter.
What about you, Cirroc?
I'm an outdoors person, so I really want to go back to the beaches and parks. I can't wait to do that. I could be a rebel and go out there and protest with the rest of the protesters, but I'm not into that, and and I'm not into getting myself in danger because I'm trying to be at the beach, so it's not that serious. But I do enjoy being outdoors. I can't wait to go back to the park, play basketball, shoot some hoops, and do some beach activities with my daughter.
Yeah, I just want to leave town.
Also miss school as a dad. You have full-time parenting responsibility, so it really makes you realize how much school opens up your schedule as a parent and allows you to do so much more.
Mm-hmm. Are you doing some teaching as well?
I do. I mean, because everybody's on homeschool type thing. So the lesson plan is given out by the teacher, and we do reading at home. We do math at home. So yeah, I'm actually the teacher now.
I think if you do French, Kat might be interested in a class or two.
Let me know if you need
teaching a class or two.
Yeah.
Oh, no, my daughter's in Spanish / Italian.
I can help with Italian.
Oh, well, her mom can help because, she is from Milan, so that always helps.
Sounds like you got it covered.
Yeah, I got that part covered. I need more Ethiopian, which is the language is Amharic.
I'll handle that one.
All right.
Okay.
It's not German and Russian and Brazilian Portuguese. I don't got any Ethiopian in my...
I just got a shirt.
Yeah.
You
Awesome
do.
One too.
You do.
Check it out. Abyssinian Kiosk. We have it in the description below if you want an awesome shirt like that, any color. Just
there it is.
Color.
That's
Cirroc's
the shirt.
sister makes them, and they are awesome.
Absolutely.
As for me, before we go to our next question, as for me, I just want to leave town. I love leaving town, even if it's just like 30 minutes north out of LA. And I love the mountains. I love lakes. More of a mountain and lake kind of person than a beach kind of person. Mm-hmm. And I just like leaving town. I like leaving the noise behind and breathing the fresh air. I also will want to go to Star Trek Las Vegas. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's a very strong possibility that it will not happen. So I'm already looking at that as as a casualty that I can't wait till it reopens, even though it hasn't officially been postponed.
Yep.
Anyway.
Do you think it will be postponed, or?
I think it's more likely than not, personally.
Because what is it, in August, right? It's first week in August.
Right. I mean, that's the best time for it to be, but people are going to err on the side of caution, especially when it comes, because we're not talking about, going back to school or going back to the gym or going back to, the grocery store. We're talking about going back to something that has thousands of people. Yeah. So it's a much different kind of, equation there.
With San Diego Comic-Con canceling and Otakon canceling, which are Otakon's not nearly as big as San Diego, but it's one of the biggest anime cons. I mean, Otakon's in August, and they've preemptively canceled, so it's just kind of
they have canceled.
Yeah. So Dragon Con has not canceled. That's in September. But, when these big cons like San Diego cancel, I think the other ones are like, yikes.
Yeah, and I think it's all about the different states and what they decide to do.
That's right.
California, I think, is going to be more likely to err on the side of caution than, say, Georgia, even though, of course, Dragon Con is out in September.
Yeah. It can all come to Washington.
We're going through this right now with my con. We're supposed to be in July. It's just great. It's just great being the social media manager for a convention in July.
You're getting all the questions, I bet.
Oh my God, it's so great. It is great.
A virtual con.
Like it's probably the worst thing for her.
Yeah.
And I'm also the volunteers coordinator, so it's like
that's coming from someone who works for the government.
Yeah. And I'm like, people are like, is this still happening? And I'm like, I'm asking my con runner that too. I don't know. So it's not fun. Not fun at all.
So now we've got a Star Trek related question, even though we always kind of twist everything into Star Trek somehow. We always manage to do that. But this one's actually Star Trek related. We just finished reviewing The Search Part 2, Deep Space Nine Season 3, Episode 2. And we're talking about Admiral Nechayev, who we've seen a bunch of times in Next Generation, a couple of times so far in Deep Space Nine. So who is your favorite Admiral of any Star Trek series? Let's start with Melissa, because she's totally looking away. She's like researching admirals right now.
I wish I could type that fast.
She's researching taco toppings.
I don't know that I have a favorite admiral. It's not Nechayev.
Well,
Who's sassy? And I usually like sass, but hers is kind of mean sass. But and I'm blanking on his name.
Kat will know it.
Yeah, I'm blanking on everything. I don't know. I pass.
Pass is an acceptable answer. What about you, Homer Frizzell?
I like Admiral Pass as well. No. So I'm going to take an easy out here because all the previous admirals and names I'm pretty much blanking on. I'll just say Admiral Picard.
That's a good one.
That would have been an obvious choice.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Oh, okay.
Good one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Rex A. Wood, you're looking up the answer right now?
Oh, I was just trying to think, and I guess I can go back to Archer. Archer was one of my favorite admirals when he became an admiral. So I'll give Archer.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, he actually became an admiral.
Show off.
Point. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, admiral would be one of mine. Would be Archer.
That's a great one.
Because you think about how he worked to form Starfleet. If it hadn't been for him and the Enterprise and stuff that went on back in that time period, we may not have Starfleet the way it is now. So, absolutely.
Good one.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Eve? England. Why does it say EL at the end of that?
Oh, it's it's just an easy thing to put it in. So I think I use it for different things at work and various things. Yeah, I need to change that. I'm really struggling to think of any admirals other than the Picard's, probably Kirk, I guess. So my answers are pretty random one, but yeah, I'm trying to think of everyone's names, to be honest.
You're right. Kirk was an admiral too.
He's always pretty cool. So yeah, that's a kind of safe answer, I'd say.
What about Admiral Catchphrase from Picard? Nobody likes her. Okay.
She's Commodore. Oh wait, yes, you're right. No,
Admiral Catchphrase.
I couldn't think of her name. Hubris.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That was it.
What about you, Carmen? Do you have a favorite admiral?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
You brought up Nechayev. She's not my favorite. I did like that she had a bigger role in DS9, first of all. Second of all, I love Admiral Nakamura just because he had that like bomb-ass mustache. Every time he was on screen, I was like, yes! Every time. So.
Good one. Very good. Yeah, I remember that. Always had that.
Yeah.
Like a caterpillar.
That's very good.
What about you, Kat? Wait. We got another
I was going to say, side note, I did a rewatch of DS9 with my boyfriend. He's in the other room. He was in the Navy. He hates admirals. So every time one was on the screen, I just got like this whole lecture. So
what was the lecture like?
We watched TNG, then DS9, and he's like, "Oh, I hate admirals every time." So the fact that I come out of that with a favorite is,
high praise.
Well, Kat, our king. What about you?
I couldn't think of anyone to begin with except for Admiral Ross, which is Barry Jenner, my good friend. So
great one.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Barry Jenner.
Thinking of.
Admiral Ross was the one that
Enterprise
was on DS9 a lot during the Dominion War, correct?
Oh, was it? Oh, you're right. Right.
Yeah,
in the later years.
Yeah, I liked him. He was reasonable.
That's why I liked him probably.
Yeah.
having been in the military, we wouldn't say, admirals, we would say majors or colonels probably, but same thing, same diff.
Good one.
And what is it about admirals that sucks so hard?
So
Who
hard.
said that?
Well, according to my boyfriend who was in the Navy,
Yeah.
It was just that a lot of them were giving commands, from being safe, not on a boat, and sort of like not really understanding what's going on the boat, or not what's going on, on the ground in the countries where the boats are, surveying or docked, and they're sort of giving commands from the Pentagon or from wherever and not understanding. And I'm not going to say exactly what he said because it involves profanity, and I don't know if that's that kind of podcast, but
Never.
So there's an elitism that they have where they feel that they're disconnected from the rest of the guys.
Yeah. So, basically, like a lot of Star Trek, especially the command structure, he's just like, oh, that's so Navy. But including.
And so what does he think about Star Trek when you guys watched it together and binge watched it?
Yeah, he's liking it. He's liking it a lot. We're on Enterprise. We're on season. I think we've just started. We're in like first quarter of season 2. He's saying objectively, out of TNG, Voyager, DS9, and Enterprise, that DS9 is the most fully fleshed out show with the characters that he can more relate to. So I'm like, oh my God, he's one of us. No, he's liking it. He's liking it. I think the whole Navy thing is really kind of like speaking to him. So he's appreciating that it's very similar to the experience that he's had. It's been great. Like, I mean, I've been watching these shows since '88, since I was maybe 7 years old. So rewatching them through and with him has been really awesome. So it's been fun.
We're just about out of time. I do want to throw in Admiral Paris into the mix too. Admiral Paris is a good one, played by Richard Hurd. We like him. He and his wife, Tricia Hurd, nice people. Cirroc, do you want to pick a winner out of these? I don't know if you know all the admirals, but do you have a favorite answer?
My honorary Admiral Nog. That's my answer.
Aww.
Admiral Nog forever.
Nice.
I need a new shirt.
New shirt
Yeah.
coming up.
All right. Well, we do have to run. We got a lot more good stuff coming. So we got to move forward. But we do want to thank you all for joining us. Cat Art King, Rex A. Wood, Eve England, Carmen Shamwell, Commander Homer Frizzell, Melissa Longo, Cirroc Lofton, as always, making us look rad. And we'll see you all again very soon on the 7th rule. Keep your ears open.